Hello and welcome. Tonight, ahead of tomorrow's governorship election in Edo State, President Bola Tinubu appeals to governorship candidates, political parties and supporters to respect the democratic process and the people's will. The Inspector General of Police, Olukayode Egbetokun, directs the restriction of all vehicular movement on roads, waterways and other forms of transportation from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow, with the exception of those on essential duties, including accredited media, electoral officials, ambulances and emergency responders. And the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja dismisses a defection suit instituted against the 27 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank withdraws its recently released monetary, credit, foreign trade and exchange policy guidelines for the 2024 and 2025 fiscal years, following widespread media misrepresentations.
On sports, Anthony Joshua outweighs Daniel Dubois by 4 pounds ahead of their IBF World Heavyweight title fight on Saturday at the Wembley Stadium.
From the nation's capital, the Statistician General of the Federation, Mr. Semiu Adeniran, announced his plans for the release of details of the nation's rebasing exercise by the second week of November 2024.
And in international news from London, the Israeli military says it's carried out a targeted strike on the Lebanese capital of Beirut after Hezbollah fired more than 100 rockets into Israel.
With the Edo State governorship election just a few hours away, President Bola Tinubu has called on all stakeholders in the upcoming elections to conduct themselves peacefully and sportingly. The election is scheduled for Saturday, September the 21st, 2024. The president implores the governorship candidates, political parties and supporters to respect the democratic process and the people's will, as he believes the voters' ability to make informed decisions about their future leaders. President Tinubu emphasizes that democracy thrives on civility, tolerance, patience, and respect for the rule of the game. He notes that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has committed to conducting a free and fair election and urges all stakeholders to work together to ensure a peaceful and successful process. The president commends the governorship candidates and political parties for their campaigns, which are focused on issues that matter most to the people of Edo State, including improving livelihoods, promoting economic growth, and contributing to national development. He's asking all citizens in the state to remain peaceful and respectful throughout the voting process, as he encourages them to resolve any disagreement amicably through a constituted authority. In addition, President Tinubu expresses unwavering confidence in the professionalism and integrity of security agencies and INEC officials, as he's asking them to remain impartial and avoid any action that could compromise the integrity of the electoral process. Less than 24 hours to the Edo State governorship election, all appear set as key stakeholders familiarize themselves and their preparations for the critical poll. In anticipation of this election, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has ordered the statewide restriction of movement starting from 6 a.m. on Saturday to ensure security and smooth conduct. Our correspondent, Dari Ido, reports.
The Edo State governorship election is one of the off-cycle polls scheduled for this year, and as part of election monitoring efforts, the civil society organization Impact Development Initiative, KDI, has opened its situation room in Benin City.
Of COVID-19. But we have
representatives from the European Union Election Observer Team, other civil society organizations, and members of the media are here to get first-hand information about how the progress of the election can be tracked.
One of the things we have to look at, and we have raised with INEC, and we are also raising with you, because this briefing is also to assist us as you go to engage in this election, is how prepared are we for this? You understand? In terms of protection of election materials, in terms of protection of even the security agencies, in terms of canopy in some places that are not under the shade, and then the possibility, if it rains heavily, the possibility of late commencement or the possibility of election moving deep into the night. So these are a lot of possibility here, but how prepared we are for this. And then again, if this goes the other way, these 2 hours can be constant, and it can also mean there is also a possibility if this is too much, there is also a possibility of, okay, we may have to shift this election to the next day.
Now, despite predictions of possible rainfall, the Independent National Electoral Commission has assured the public of its readiness to conduct the poll. However, there are growing concerns about unidentified individuals seen lurking around some local government offices of the Commission. Now, away from there, but in a related security development, the Inspector General of Police has announced the restriction of movement across the state. He also banned all security aids and escorts from accompanying VIPs to polling units and collation centers. This message was conveyed by the Force's Public Relations Officer.
To ensure a peaceful, transparent, and credible electoral process during the upcoming Edo off-cycle election scheduled for Saturday, September 21, 2024. In preparation for the election, the Inspector General of Police has ordered the restriction of all vehicular movement on roads, waterways, and other forms of transportation from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on election day. That is tomorrow, Saturday, 25 September 2024.
It's a last-minute rush, and you may not be wrong. As the people of Edo gear up for this all-important election, the streets are busy, sirens blaring, and of course, the key stakeholders are promising that everything is under control.
The energy here in Benin, the royal city, appears to be positive, and that is palpable even among the residents who share their hopes and expectations ahead of the poll.
It's for the next governor to continue from where this present one stopped, like a good road, electricity, and good education. That's what we just need.
The 2024 Edo State governorship election will see 17 political parties contesting, with 16 male candidates and 1 female candidate, all vying for the governorship seat for the next 4 years. Dari Idowu, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, says that it has deployed its operatives to all local government areas in Edo State to tackle voters' inducement in tomorrow's governorship election. The chairman of the commission, Mr. Olaolu Kayode, says that the EFCC is committed to the attainment of electoral integrity across the country by insulating voters from every form of financial inducement in exercising their franchise, adding that vote buying is a financial crime that the Commission will not condone. The Commission explains that it has always been involved in monitoring every electoral process across the country in line with its mandate of tackling all forms of economic and financial crimes. In the meantime, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says that it has deployed its operatives to all local government areas in Edo State to tackle this for tomorrow. And still on election matters, we head to Kwara State now, where the state's Independent Electoral Commission, Kwasiek, has said that all sensitive materials for tomorrow's local government election has been distributed to the 16 local government areas of the state. The chairman, Mr. Muhammad Babalkala, says that all arrangements on logistics have been made and the commission is prepared for a hitch-free election.
We have met with all stakeholders. We are invited, we have accredited some observers who will observe in relation to the 3 senatorial institutes of the state. We have issued them observers tag. We have issued out press crew tag. We have issued out general observer crew tag and all other material that were needed for the election, the ballot paper, the short sheet, ballot box, and what have you. We have deployed them to the different local governments. We have met with all the security chiefs in the state. We have met with the Commandant of Army, Commandant of Civil Defense Corps, Commissioner of Police, DSS, Immigration Service, Custom, NDLA, and what have you.
The Akwa Ibom state government has officially launched a social security scheme to guarantee the provision of needed health services to persons on the payment of token contributions at regular intervals, known as Akwa Ibom State Health Insurance Scheme. This initiative will be run by the Akwa Ibom State Health Insurance Agency, a corporate body established by Cap Number 12 Laws of Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly in 2021.
It's a huge turnout of daintily attired Akwa Ibomites, all here to witness the official launch of the Akwa Ibom State Health Insurance Scheme. The gathering cuts across the political class, government functionaries, captains of industry, and all other segments of the society, including the physically challenged.
In the soonest possible time.
The Commissioner for Health, Professor Augustine Umo, explains the importance of the scheme.
Health insurance, as we shall provide for you, shall include both the Arise care, which we are launching today, and other aspects of care. What do we want from Akwa Ibom people at this point? All we want is your participation.
The Director General of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Kelechi Ohiri, says the scheme will open a window of succor to new possibilities for the people to access healthcare without the financial burden associated with the out-of-pocket expenditure.
It's not just enough for those in formal sector and those who are well off in society to be financially protected, but it's also important for us to look after the poor and the vulnerable. This is why the NHIA works very closely with the state health insurance agencies through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund to ensure that the extreme poor, the vulnerable, the disabled, the elderly are all covered.
Please, can we celebrate His Excellency, Pastor Omoino?
Governor Omoino is understandably excited about the scheme. The governor also announces his administration's decision to boost the fund with 160 million naira to cover civil servants from grade levels 1 to 6 as the first batch of beneficiaries. However, warns against mismanagement of funds meant for the scheme.
Recently, we ordered ambulances. 6 of them have been delivered, and we want to complement this insurance scheme with a robust ambulance services. You will be audited. I'm going to appoint one of the best auditing firms in this country and put them to monitor your work and to monitor the things you are doing. It may be a very unpopular decision, but make no mistake, read my lips today. I will audit and I will prosecute any act of fraud that I find in this system. I need to warn ahead of time.
The event is part of activities lined up to mark the 37th anniversary of the state.
In part 2, after the break, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja dismisses a defection suit instituted against the 27 members of the River State House of Assembly loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Ahead of tomorrow's governorship election in Edo State, President Bola Tinubu appeals to governorship candidates, political parties, and supporters to respect the democratic process and the people's will. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, directs the restriction of all vehicular movement on roads, waterways, and other forms of transportation from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow, with the exception of those on essential duties, including accredited media, electoral officials, ambulances, and emergency responders. And the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja dismisses a defection suit instituted against the 27 members of the River State House of Assembly loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. Israeli military says it's carried out a targeted strike on the Lebanese capital Beirut after Hezbollah fired more than 100 rockets into Israel. To judicial matters now, Justice Peter Lifu of the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed a defection suit instituted against the 27 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. The suit seeking to replace the 27 lawmakers on account of the alleged defection from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, the APC, was dismissed on various grounds. Delivering judgment, Justice Lifu held that the suit instituted by the Action People's Party was not filed within 14 days allowed by the law. Our correspondent Manuela Ekele reports.
Justice Peter Lifu's courtroom at the Federal High Court Abuja is filled as pro-Wike's lawmakers, defendants and lawyers patiently wait for the judgment in a suit instituted by the Action People's Party seeking to replace the 27 lawmakers on account of their alleged defection. While the defection was said to have been carried out in December last year, the APP filed the case on July 12, a period of 8 months after the case of action emanated. In a judgment, Justice Peter Lifu said the case was a gross abuse of court process on the ground that several suits on the alleged defection of the same 27 lawmakers had been adjudicated by the Federal High Court. The judge, who quoted the previous judgment of the Federal High Court, said that the request for replacement of the lawmakers had earlier been rejected due to lack of sufficient evidence to establish the defection of the legislators. He specifically recalled the judgment of Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja, delivered in July this year, where INEC was restrained from declaring the seats of the lawmakers vacant and from conducting any fresh election. The judge subsequently dismissed the suit.
As far as the law is concerned, Martin Amewula and his group are the authentic members of the House of Assembly, and Martin Amewula remains the Speaker by the judgments of the courts of the land.
What the judge has said today is just a confirmation of what the true position is. A lot has been said about the issue of defection. 27 of us in the State House of Assembly never defected to any other party.
Many now wait to see if the appellant will appeal the judgment. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
And ahead of the governorship election in Edo State tomorrow, September the 21st, 2024, we head over to Edo State now, where our correspondent Sheon Okibaloye is standing by to give us some insights into what exactly is going on at the moment. Hello, Sheon.
Hi, Anne, and welcome to Benin City.
Yes, Sheon, we have heard from the president, we've heard from the IGP, we've heard from stakeholders about how they all want a free, fair, secure, and of course peaceful election for tomorrow. But what is the atmosphere looking like right now in Edo State?
Thank you so much, Anne. It's being, well, if you say a beehive of activity of different sort. If you describe it in terms of how ready INEC is or what INEC is doing, it's been a lot of activities as far as INEC is concerned, because what we have tried to do all together today is to go through all the INEC offices that we have and we can find, and we see a lot of activities in and out, not in their major offices, but from the local government areas to the RAC centers. You will see a lot of activities and the movement of personnel and materials for the election tomorrow. And that is perhaps one of the standard in the procedures for this election. The movement of those materials and personnel in anticipation of the election, they're supposed to be moved from the LGAs to the RAC centers. The RAC centers are, of course, closer to the wards, and of course, the wards, of course, closer to the polling unit. So in terms of the hierarchy of organization and the administrative control of the process, in terms of dispatching of the equipment and personnel, this is the kind of activities that we have been seeing. Security-wise, we've also seen movement of military officers in and around town, a show of force, security operatives trying to transport themselves to the designated areas for this election. So we've seen quite a lot of activities, and the streets is also buzzing, from the marketplaces to the major streets of the city. It is being a lot of activities. A lot of people will try to to catch up on banking activities. It's been Friday and ahead of Saturday, a lot has been happening. And interesting thing is that the curfew or the restriction of movement is now a difference in the entire value chain of the election.
All right, Shehu, we would also be asking you about the polls of the electorates at the moment. We know how prepared the other INEC officials and every other person is, but the polls of the electorate, and also from your own experience of elections in the past in Edo State, what do you think can be done differently this time, or is there anything different that's going to happen in this election for Edo State tomorrow?
And there's quite a few things that have changed from what has always happened. First and foremost, in the modus operandi of the Nigerian police force. Usually what we see or what happens is that police will declare curfew from 12 a.m., 12 midnight to about 6 p.m. But that has changed. This election, the curfew will begin at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning and it will end at 6 p.m. It means that if you want to travel in and around Edo State before 6 a.m., you can do that. Prior to this period, in some other off-cycle elections, what we often see is a restriction of movement, a curfew, as the case may be, is always imposed from 12 a.m. as soon as it is the new day beckons. You cannot move until about 6 p.m. But that has changed in this election, and I think it's a plus for those who want to catch up some business activities or who have some events that they need to attend to outside of the state can do that effectively tomorrow. Again, in the conduct of this election, we have a brand new national commissioner that will be supervising this election. Professor Gumus is one of the new national commissioners who is in charge of Edo State. And of course, the new resident electoral commissioner in charge of Edo State is another new person in charge of this election. These are some of the new things. And we might see a new way of doing things from them, which means so many things as to how this election will pan out. We have more polling units in Edo State, more voters in Edo State, over 2 million voters in Edo State, different from what we've seen in the past. Quite a few things that have changed in this election. One thing also that the voters will be expecting is an integrity of the process. How that pans out is also a very big deal for this election, Anne.
All right, thank you very much, Shehu Okibaloye, and we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on the elections in Edo State. Thanks a lot, and please stay safe.
Thank you, Anne.
We head over to Abuja Studios now, where Victoria Longjohn is standing by to give us more on the news at 10. Hello, Victoria.
Thank you, Anne. As a result of the flood that ravaged Maiduguri and parts of Jere local government areas of Borno State, the management of Jais Bank has commiserated with the state government and the affected victims. The Islamic Bank during the visit made a donation of 110 million naira to the government and Shehu of Borno.
This visit by officials of Jais Bank, led by the chairman of the board of directors of the bank, is to commiserate with the government and people of Borno State over the recent flood that ravaged the state. The management of the bank is tapping on the existing relationship between Borno State and the bank to commiserate with the state in her trying moment.
Your Excellencies, we have seen what has happened. We have heard it. We feel it. We feel it because some of us, our brothers and families here were affected. For instance, some of my brothers, some of my families are in my house in the GRA here. So when we say we feel it, we really meant we feel it. Your Excellency, we are coming here with a very modest contribution in cash and in food, to the tune of 100 million naira.
On his part, the state governor appreciates Jais Bank for their continued support to the state, as the governor states that the state government will work in partnership with the bank to boost small-scale businesses as well as empower victims of the flood.
Not only the social economic activities that has claimed the lives of many people in the state. thank you most sincerely for coming and for this sympathy and confidence visit. For the donations that we have provided, we remain entirely grateful to you. It is not a small amount. We cherish it and value it. Inshallah, we shall never get use of it. Giants Bank has been supporting the government and people of Borno State for a very long period. And now that the bank is our own, inshallah, on our part, we shall continue to support the bank.
The delegation then proceeds to the Shehu's palace to register their sympathy, where they made a donation of 10 million naira to help in cleaning the house of the Shehu, which was also affected by the flood.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the Central Bank of Nigeria withdraws its recently released monetary, credit, foreign trade and exchange policy guidelines for the fiscal years of 2024 to 2025 following widespread media misrepresentations. That's some business news. To join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. The Statistician General of the Federation, Mr. Semiu Adeniro, has announced plans for the release of details of the nation's rebasing exercise by the second week of November 2024. Speaking at a dialogue organized by the Bureau for Experts on the Nigeria Living Standard Survey, Consumer Price Index, and the Gross Domestic Product holding in Abuja, Mr. Adeniro explains. The rebasing exercise will cover the informal sector and others such as the marine and blue economy, as well as the creative economy. The last rebasing exercise was conducted in 2014 and put the nation's economy as the top in Africa.
This meeting, organized by the National Bureau of Statistics, is bringing together finance experts, representatives of development finance institutions, and government officials to rub minds on the National Living Standards Survey, the rebasing of the gross domestic products, and the Consumer Price Index. All three economic indicators form a significant part to determine the nation's economic growth and to proffer solutions to government on how to intervene.
The overall goal is to ensure that the approaches used in implementing these important exercises, that is the NLSS and the true rebasing, the GDP rebasing and CPI rebasing, are very sound, based on international best practices and relevant to the Nigerian context. This is very important for us as a country. In so doing, the output from the process will reflect an accurate picture of living conditions and the state of the economy in Nigeria.
The good news about rebasing is that it will assist all levels of government to control and coordinate economic and social activities that have taken place by using available resources efficiently to achieve developmental goals and aspirations for the greater good of our citizens. It will also enable the prioritization of developmental needs, monitor progress, and improve decision-making across the board.
After the opening ceremony, the Statistician General gives an update on the nation's rebasing exercise, which was last conducted in 2014.
The timeline for the rebasing is we are looking at second week in November, all things being equal this year. So by the grace of God, the results will be out by second week in November, so that government can be able to use it in the budget planning and then also the midterm expenditure framework, MTF. So that is what we are targeting, so that it can be useful to the government.
As at the last rebasing of 2014, the nation's GDP was put at $510 billion, making it the largest in Africa and the 26th in the world.
And that's it from Abuja. It's now back to you, Anne, for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Victoria. The President, Bola Tinubu, has said his administration will continue to retool in a bid to find solutions to the challenges bedeviling the country. President Bola Tinubu reiterated his commitment when he met with the former presiding officers of the National Assembly at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, during which he asked for cooperation with the government irrespective of political differences. Our State House correspondent, Empress Simon, reports.
Former presiding officers of the National Assembly, led by former Senate President Senator Ken Nnamani, are in the presidential villa Abuja to meet President Bola Tinubu. Despite their party differences, the former lawmakers are here to show solidarity in the face of Nigeria's daunting challenges.
We believe that with your experience, you are able to face the difficulties and surmount them. What gives us more hope is the courage with which you handle the issue of local government autonomy, and in the national interest that we wish to pledge our support as we work tirelessly to restore national security.
President Tinubu is appreciative of their support as he emphasizes the need for all hands to be on deck.
Yes, there's hardship, but how did we get here? What did we do when we had very high production? We neglected our communities. We neglected the goose that lays the golden egg. We forget to even give them common, decent standard of living. We forget to educate our children.
He assures of his government's commitment to transforming Nigeria.
I can assure you, I didn't come to look for money and exploit the situation. I came to work. We will retool and rebuild Nigerian economy, I assure you, with your cooperation.
The president also calls for more patience from Nigerians, assuring that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, let's join Dominic Iwewe, who's standing by to give us more in the world of business.
Thank you, Anne. On business news, the central bank has temporarily withdrawn its monetary, credit, foreign trade and exchange policy guidelines for the 2024 and 2025 fiscal years, which was published on September the 17th. In a statement released today, the CBN says certain aspects of the documents, which include the guidelines on the cybersecurity levy, represent a compilation of previously issued policies and directives up to December 31st, 2023, and have been misreported by the media and led to confusion among stakeholders. However, the CBN notes that some policies mentioned in the guidelines have been revised or replaced by newer updates in the aftermath of the publication. Outside our shores, British government debt has hit 100% of economic output for the first time in recent history, and that's the highest level since 1961, as monthly borrowing rose by more than expected. According to the report released today by the Office for National Statistics, the government borrowed £13.734 billion, approximately $18.29 billion, in August this year, which is £3.3 billion more than in August last year. The latest report shows that public sector net debt, including public sector-owned banks, rose to 100% of GDP for the first time since monthly records began in 1993, up from 99.3% in July. Friday's trading session at the NGX ended positive after investors extended their bargain hunting for some high-value stocks on the local bourse. Well, Ibom tells us more.
Welcome
to the stock market report. Now, after a tight battle with the bear at intraday, the NGX closed the final trading session today in the green, up 0.25%, ending at 98,000 level. And this comes despite sell-offs in stocks like Flour Mills, EBN Holdings. We saw MTN Nigeria creeping out of nowhere. We can see it waved the magic wand and boosted the market's positive performance. We see that the stock price opened at 192 naira and closed at 199 naira 80 kobo. And that's a 7 naira 8 kobo addition to the telcos company's share price. Now let's look at the sectors. We see banking is down today 0.24%, and this is because we saw sell-offs in Access Holdings, EBN Holdings, UBA. They dragged that index down. We say down 0.24%, as I mentioned. Consumer goods is also down 0.38%. See Dangote Sugar taking a hit today. Flour Mills not left behind there. Oil and gas is in the green, and this is thanks to O&O and Japan Gold. You see Japan Gold making a recovery, and the share price ticking up today to close in the green. We also saw a slight uptick. Green movements in PZ Cussons right after the company, that's a consumer giant, announcing its divestment plans. PZ Cussons is one of the companies exiting Nigeria, and the big corporate is the FX situation. As the NGX braces for this major exit, it's also preparing for new entrants like Hardell Holdings. And that's the stock market report. Will Ibong signing out.
And that's it on Business News. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. And still in the world of business, to company news now, the federal government has announced that 360,000 farmers will be empowered through the Manufacturing Stabilization Fund in the agricultural sector, aiming to boost food production and ensure food security in Nigeria. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, reveals this during the 2024 Access Bank Corporate Customer Forum, where he highlighted government's economic reforms and stabilization plans. This year's forum focused on building a collective pathway to facilitate Nigeria's economic rebirth and revitalization.
Welcome you to the Access Corporate Forum 2024.
The 2024 Access Bank Corporate Customer Forum sees the convergence of policymakers, corporate leaders, financial market and financial industry experts, as well as corporate customers eager to explore emerging opportunities and the challenges ahead as Nigeria seeks to reposition itself in the global market.
It gives me great honor to welcome the Minister of Finance.
Coming up to deliver the lead paper, the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, provides updates on government policy reforms and stabilization plan across key economic sectors, including agriculture.
So the plan this time around, and we must be determined in it succeeding, 360,000 farmers will be funded, assisted, and mobilized and resourced to farm 360,000 hectares. And from that, we are estimating 1.4 million metric tons by next January, February, when the harvest comes, of maize, wheat, cassava, and tubers. And that is a key success factor, a key indicator that we must hit as a target. And everybody has a role to play in producing food.
While the minister speaks on what has happened in the last 18 months, the core lead paper goes 18 months forward.
How do we get from today to 2026?
The Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Urani, explains what Nigeria will look like in 2026 and how it can navigate through the months ahead.
Manufacturing is not just big-time manufacturing, small-time cottage industry. We need to do that. And I said, the Bank of Industry cannot continue to make loans only based on bank guarantees. So continue the bank guarantee system, but double it by not having bank guarantees.
Deeper conversations continue at panel sessions. Industry experts join lead speakers to identify pragmatic steps to achieve goals for economic rebirth.
That Mr. President needs to specifically
direct that we have some measure of coordination so that we don't have surprises.
Going by conversations here, it does seem like Access Bank is positioning itself not just as a financial leader, but also a proactive partner in driving economic growth and sustainability.
This kind of forum, firstly, changes mindset. Secondly, stimulates financial industry to then look at partnerships with our customers as well as with government. So I think there's a lot that will come out of this just in terms of investor sentiment and how we then talk about going into the future.
Access Bank says it looks forward to seeing how these conversations will translate into action for Nigeria's growth in the coming years.
Next on the news at 10, the Israeli military says that it has carried out a targeted strike on the Lebanese capital Beirut after Hezbollah fired more than 100 rockets into Israel. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Outside our shores, Hamas has condemned the brutal Israeli strike on Beirut, which the Israeli military claimed killed the head of Hezbollah's elite Radwan unit, Ibrahim Akil. Here's Simon Pizzo with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Israeli military says it's carried out a targeted strike on the Lebanese capital Beirut after Hezbollah fired more than 100 rockets into Israel. Lebanon's health ministry says 3 people have been killed and 17 injured in the attack on a suburb in southern Beirut. Here, fires burning in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights after rockets launched from Lebanon. It comes after more than 30 people were killed in a series of exploding device attacks on Hezbollah members earlier in the week, which were widely blamed on Israel.
We are all very, very clear that we want to see a negotiated political settlement so that Israelis can return to their homes in northern Israel, and indeed Lebanese can return to their homes. And that's why tonight I'm calling for an immediate ceasefire from both sides so that we can get to that settlement, that political settlement that's required.
Ukraine's victory plan in the war against Russia depends on quick decisions being taken by allies this year. That's according to President Volodymyr Zelensky. Mr. Zelensky singled out the importance of US President Joe Biden to the victory plan, which he said the 2 leaders will discuss when they meet. The Ukrainian leader is traveling to the United States next week. Angela von der Leyen announced that the EU will grant a loan of up to 35 billion euros to help Ukraine, to help the country stuck in a grinding war with Russia. US Vice President Kamala Harris has spoken of her willingness to use her gun if an intruder entered her home.
You have guns? No, at the debate.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
After a laugh, the Democratic presidential nominee continued, "I probably shouldn't have said that, but my staff will deal with that later." Harris, who highlighted during the recent presidential debate that she was a gun owner, went on to reiterate that she supported a ban on assault weapons.
This is not the sign of a civil society, and it doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. Everyone should have a sense of collective responsibility for the children of our community.
Yes.
And understand their right to live and be safe.
The killing of a Japanese schoolboy in the Chinese city of Shenzhen has sparked worry among Japanese expats living in China, with top firms warning their workers to be vigilant. Toshiba and Toyota have told their staff to take precautions against any possible violence, while Panasonic is offering its employees free flights home. Japanese authorities have repeated their condemnation of the killing while urging the Chinese government to ensure the safety of their citizens. The stabbing of the 10-year-old boy on Wednesday was the 3rd high-profile attack on foreigners in China in recent months. Over 12,000 households in northern Thailand have suffered from heavy flooding. That's according to the country's Ministry of Interior after heavy rainfall from a tropical depression. Drone footage captured in Thailand's northern Chiang Rai province showed residential areas and surrounding fields inundated following flash floods that struck the region. The Office of National Water Resources, as well as the Department for Disaster Prevention and Mitigation, posted warnings for flash floods in several northern provinces, including Chiang Rai. Lawyers for women who accuse the billionaire and former Harrods boss Mohammed Al Fayed of sexual abuse say he was a monster and a predator who was enabled by the luxury department store.
Who we say was enabled by an unsafe system of work.
They say Harrods have full culpability for the abuse, as a victim described unnecessary and intrusive medical examinations for female employees. Mr. Al Fayed, who died last year, aged 94, owned Harrods between 1985 and 2010. And the pop star Kylie Minogue has announced her biggest world tour in more than a decade and a sequel to her comeback album, Tension. The 13 tracks on Tension 2 will be released on the 18th of October, with the global tour kicking off in her home country, Australia, in February, before swinging through Asia and the UK. In a statement, the pop icon said she is beyond excited to be celebrating the Tension era and more with fans. 20 dates have been announced so far, but Minogue said more are coming. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Anthony Joshua outweighed Daniel Dubois by 4 pounds for their IBF World Heavyweight title fights at the Wembley Stadium on Saturday night, despite a career heaviest weight for his British rival. Joshua scaled 252.5 pounds, while Dubois weighed in at 248.6 pounds ahead of the Riyadh season. AJ was marginally heavier than his last fight against Francis Ngannou, while Dubois weighed 3 pounds more than his previous career highest. Let's turn to the EPL now. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta wants the Gunners to show they are ready to topple Premier League champions Manchester City in Sunday's top-of-the-table clash between the title favourites. City have claimed an unprecedented 4 consecutive English top-flight titles, beating Arsenal into second place in each of the past 2 seasons. Tonight, I'm Kelly. You guys back to Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. Ahead of tomorrow's governorship election in Edo State, President Bola Tinubu has appealed to governorship candidates, political parties and supporters to respect the democratic process and the people's will. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Good night and have a wonderful weekend.